I am OnGaard,
And I'm Sunny.
and today we are going to be doing a Destined Rivals deck tier list. Starting with Charizard. And how do you feel about Charizard in this format?
I feel like Charizard, I don't think it's like my thing personally at the moment, in my opinion. However, it's been getting like a little bit of resurgence in a bit of a way. I just don't know if it's like for me entirely, but people
Yeah.
are sleeping on it though.
I do think that it's getting a bit of a resurgence. I think it hasn't been the strongest in this current format, but I think it does have the tools to succeed in this upcoming format. I don't think it's like tier 1 right now, or A tier or S tier. I think it's probably sitting at B tier for me personally, at least. But I do think it's strong into this format, and if people find the right list for it, I think it can just pop off at big tournaments.
Yeah, I can definitely back
Yeah.
up B tier on that one for sure.
Yeah, I think that's fair. We got a lot of decks to get through, some of which are strange.
Yeah.
So we'll try and go through these a little bit faster, unless we have like some conflicting ideas on things. So next is one that we should not have much disagreement on, Dragapult, which I think is very clearly, at minimum, A tier, but I think it's probably an S. Mainly due to the fact that it gains a lot with this set in just the Watchtower that it can play to shut down all of those Knocked Owl decks and Dunsparce engines and whatnot. It's one of those things that doesn't rely on colorless Pokemon and is still extremely strong. And Raging Bolt with Baby Raging Bolt has been one of the things that's kind of mitigated it a bit, aside from Gardevoir itself, which is just like a terrible matchup overall. It gaining both Shaman and Watchtower improves a lot of its like shakier matchups significantly. So personally, I'd put it in S, but what are your thoughts on it?
Keep it short and sweet and just say that the rich are just getting richer. It's going in S tier.
Yeah, that is completely fair. I think that this is most definitely a broken deck into this format. Now into Iron Thorns. I think there's a lot of good abilities to be shutting down, but I don't think, like, this gains Watchtower. So you have abilities to shut down in, like, the stadium and also shutting down Rulebox abilities, which I do think is good. But it's definitely not A tier. I can see an argument for it being in B, but I'm leaning towards C myself. I think it's, like, on the cusp of B and C.
A bit more generous where I was going at. I was going to say at least the highest would be C. It could also be lingering towards D tier. I think, like, personally, like, yes, there are good abilities that I can shut off for sure. But I also think with, like, the main popular decks out there, i.e., you know, Dragapult's got their Dracloak and stuff like that. I don't know if it shuts down completely everything that you want it to shut down. I would say at least C is fair.
Yeah, I think C is fair. I think that, like, this deck is really good into Guardy, and now that it gets Watchtower, I think it's, like, super strong into those the decks that it otherwise would not shut down very easily, like Terrabox, or some of the decks that run, like, the Dunsparce engine, or even, like, Pidgeot. I mean, like, Pidgeot it was already shutting down, but, like, the Dunsparce and Knocked Owl have been, like, things it's kind of struggled with as a deck, which is why I didn't think it had legs this format. I think it has some legs next format, but I still don't think it's gonna be, like, on top of the format, especially with Dragapult up here, which it doesn't do too much to. I think it does hit, like, a lot of the upper decks, but I don't think it hits this one at all.
Yeah, and I think, like, with, like, Watchtower coming out, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how certain decks are going to incorporate that card in there, depending on how high up on the radar Knocked Owl and stuff like that's going to be with Dunsparce as well.
Itching, like itchy pollen. Got him, anyway. Moving on to Goldengo, which I think is definitely a super strong deck in this format, but I want to hear your thoughts first.
So, as someone who's played Goldengo somewhat recently to a decent amount of success, I'm very much a fan of the deck. However, I think with decks sort of adapting to its existence, i.e. decks playing cards like Genesect, for example, it definitely does have a bit of like I would say like struggle, but the smart players are just going to get Genesect online right away. But I definitely still think it has like a somewhat of a spot. It can definitely weasel its way into wherever it needs to weasel its way into, for sure.
Yeah, I think for me, I know like with Genesect decks, it shuts down the Energy Search Pro like super early, and it doesn't really gain a lot of traction from that.
Yeah, and I think the heart and soul, like personally, is the eSearch Pro, stuff like that.
But I unironically
make that fun, yeah.
For this format, I think that the Golden Go Typhlosion deck is really good because it doesn't need to rely on Energy Search Pro at all. In fact, I think that variation just doesn't play it because it has the Ethan's Adventure card to just search out a ton of fires, or the Typhlosion itself to swing with it. I do think that Typhlosion is like a double-edged sword for this deck, because if you're up against like a pure Typhlosion deck, they're trading favorably into you. But Typhlosion is just such a good attacker for this deck, and also gives it the consistency of just like finding a bunch of energy to just dump off of Make It Rain. I can definitely... I wouldn't put it in C. I'm thinking B, personally.
I'm also thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
B is very fair for the way it stands right now.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Great Tusk is one of those decks that we didn't really see until, like, now, and then I played in your tournament on Monday, and I saw that there was, like, 11 of them? Because
really?
It just did, like... I think it just top 16'd, like... I think it was Utrecht, or whatever. One of the, like... across the seas, regionals. It, like, apparently got, like, top 16 or something.
See, there was, like, 3, but I guess maybe they were put under other... If they were built differently.
Yeah.
Could be that.
I hit one of them the other day. It did not do very well.
No,
they were not getting off the land crush as fast as they wanted to. I'm not sure where to put this. I'm not gonna lie.
I think Rogue is fair, maybe.
Yeah.
Can we say Rogue?
I could say Rogue. I could definitely say Rogue.
Yeah, I think it's like one of those decks, honestly, that it's cute. It can sneak in if ran properly. You hit the right matchups and all that stuff, but I wouldn't say the ceiling's too high for it. Other than that, like it may have like, easily peaked at that one tournament.
Yeah, I think top 16 is probably the peak of what this deck can do. I'll put it in Rogue, though. Rogue is just kind of like something that could pop up and just take something at some point, but only really like once. Okie dokie. I know that it was also that there was that one Okie dokie Cramorant deck that also kind of peaked. I feel like it's probably in the same category as Great Tusk in that regard, where it just like popped and just had that one really good result.
Yeah, I think that's very fair to assume. Where like people will at least be intrigued of the deck, but I don't know if they would just personally take it to a big tournament themselves.
Yeah,
unless they were really like that intrigued by it.
Yeah,
I think it's like, this is definitely something that can get me from A to B at a big major tournament.
Yeah, one of my locals players is very much like the Okie dokie guy, so I know that that's the kind of deck that he would bring to a regional, but I would definitely drop this in Rogue.
Yeah, it's very fair.
Alright, now Gardevoir. Gardevoir, I think, is going to stay very good. I don't think that it's, like... I don't think it's B tier. I think it's very solidly A tier myself. I don't think it's S tier, and I think that, although it has, like, a lot of tricks and whatnot, I think this upcoming format has a lot of things that can deal with it. And honestly, I think Crobat EX is, like, a super underrated card for the fact that it can trade, like, favorably with this, and also take multi-prize turns just on evolving. I think Gardevoir is super strong, and I think that Pult being as strong as it is also means that Gardevoir is going to stay super relevant. But I don't think it's S tier. I think it's A tier myself. Thoughts?
I'm gonna say it's gonna be like a fair early prediction on that of putting it in A tier. I think that's definitely fair for sure. And then, as we say that, new format rolls around, Guardy's gonna possibly still do something, which is gonna be weird. Like Guardy is the deck that's currently the one that just finds a way. Yeah. Last format that was Lugia. format before that,
It
it was
was
Mew VMAX.
Mew.
This is definitely the deck that goes into that same category of it finds a way,
Yeah.
and will still be a good deck until literally the
Until
day
it dies. Yeah.
rotates.
I don't
Rotation
think
kills
that.
it.
Yeah, I don't think Gardevoir's ever going to die. I think it's
Yeah.
going to solidly stay a good deck, and I don't think it's going to be of any surprise when it succeeds at NAIC.
Yeah, I'm going on like the realism of like what Guardy has done and can very much still do, especially in the right hands of certain players,
Yeah.
i.e. Henry Chow.
Oh, for sure. And Brent Tonneson, of course.
Mm-hmm.
Then we've got Frostlass. This one is not the Grimmsnarl Frostlass. We'll have that one be this one over here. This one is just Frostlass Monkey Dory, which I do think is solid. I think it gets very much like outpaced by things like Pult or like Joltik Box. I think it's strong into things like Gardevoir and Raging Bolt, and also Charizard especially. I think the Grimmsnarl build is better. That's, like, my opinion on it.
Oh, yeah.
But,
I'm actually surprised how good Grimmsnarl actually was when I actually had a chance to play around with it.
Like, it's way better than you'd think. Like, the... One thing is, I don't understand why so many people aren't playing at least one more Pekko, for the fact that it is not only a 1 retreat cost Pokemon, but is also a really good cornerstone counter. Like, that trades prizes fairly easily. Like, I don't think it's more than a 1 of in the deck, but I really like more Pekko in the Grimmsnarl deck. But more on that when we get around to that one.
Yeah.
I'm between B and C for this. B, I think, is fair because it's still, like, a super strong deck, but I think Grimmsnarl is a better version of it, so I could see the argument for putting this in C and then putting Grimmsnarl up here later.
Yeah, I think just to interject on that, I think, in my opinion, it would belong in C. Like, there's potential behind it, but I don't think, like, given what's already in B, I don't think it really pairs perfectly into whatever's still in B.
Yeah.
It's basically like in that same category as what's already in C, i.e. Iron Thorns.
Yeah, I think we just jump to the Grimmsnarl now, considering we've already
might as well.
We've already kind of talked about it. It's super strong, it sets itself up similarly to Charizard, but it's like, rather than being Charizard just like a kind of beat stick deck, this one's a spread deck that sets itself up, which I think is really cool. I think this one is going to be super relevant. I don't think it's like higher than B tier, but I do think that it takes out some of the like most relevant decks. It does get kind of farmed by grass, though.
Yeah, for a new archetype, I think B is definitely fair for sure. Again, new archetypes are always like sketchy in a bit of a way, because, you know, there's people out there that like they never really want to be like the guinea pigs for the tournaments where they're playing.
Yeah, especially at the start of a new
something as big as NAIC, like there's people like not praised to be the guinea pigs, I would say. But I will definitely say, like, anyone that has like that much confidence in the deck and thinks that, hey, this can really get you from round 1 all the way to the grand finals, then I say, hey, go for it.
Yeah, like there's a distinct possibility we're underrating this and it's actually A, but I think B is super fair for right now.
Yeah, early impressions mostly, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm gonna put Conkeldurr in Why Is This Here? Because...
Anyway, moving along.
Yeah. Like, it has a niche, like, it can beat Raging Bolt, but, like, what else?
It peaked at that.
It peaked at
Raging Bolt doesn't do well against any single prize deck.
Yeah, honestly, like, I think that Slowking isn't in this, like, tier list here, but I think Slowking's more, like, the rogue tier than this is. Like, Slowking can just do the Conkeldurr thing by copying Conkeldurr.
Slowking's cute. I mean, it's not gonna go the distance, but it's cute.
Yeah.
I have more confidence in that than just a standalone Conkeldurr.
Yeah. So moving along, let's move to Wall. This is Farigiraf, Melodic, Cornerstone, Mimikyu, like, just Wall deck.
The original Boogeyman that everyone thought was going to be.
Yeah, thought was going to be good. It turned out to not be very good because people know how to play around it. So, having said that, I do think that this thing can just, like, strong-arm itself into, like, a solid finish, but I don't think it's any higher than C myself.
Yeah. I could even argue for D, but I think C is still fair.
Yeah.
That'd be more or less effectively putting something in D tier, but I can still sit fine on C.
Yeah. Alright. Now, considering Turbo Hands, I think this one might be our D tier.
Yeah, the deck is not good.
Yeah, the deck is a worse Joltik box because its way of accelerating is locked by Budu.
Yeah, and to sort of piggyback on that note, I mean, even when the deck was like originally around, in the version of like Future Box and all that stuff,
Yeah.
there were literally just like decks like Miraidon that was still out there that basically just did the job better.
Better, yeah.
This was basically like talking about last format. This was basically just the Miraidon sort of deck, just with more steps.
Yeah, or like Miraidon with less options. It's basically just buff up your Iron Hands and hit with that specifically.
Yeah, no, it is not good.
Yeah,
No.
that's our D tier for this for sure.
Yeah.
Slacking. This one's hard to rate because I think that this is a really good card, and it's good in things like Dragapult, but as a standalone deck, as itself, which I have seen like standalone decks of this, and I don't think it's awful. But as its own deck, I don't think it's like good enough.
Yeah, it's too reliant, especially with like the new Watchtower card coming out. It's too reliant on just having that stadium literally in play.
Yeah, but granted, it can still just swing whenever there is an EX in play, which is fine. Like, I don't think you need Watchtower in order to make this work. It's just like Watchtower also lets this thing hit Cornerstone, which is super relevant. I think I would put this in C because I don't think that it is as bad by itself as Turbo Box is compared to Joltik Box. But
yeah, again, it's the potential factor.
Yeah.
I think like pretty much when it comes to C tier, again, we're talking potential.
Yeah, like it has the potential.
It probably won't be good, but there's like this thing, or there's a rule where it possibly can be at least playable.
Yeah.
I
would
win
put
games
it in
with
C
it.
for that reason, for sure. I do think that this card itself is really good. Like, in terms of, like, how good the card is, definitely higher than C, but, like, how good it is as a standalone deck is a different story.
Right.
Yeah. Now, for Alligator, this has had really high highs and really low lows. It's been in a low spot lately. And
very low.
It does not do very well into, like, Pult and Guardy, but
which unfortunately is what's out there.
I
think even like the matchups that are supposedly good could even still not be great.
Yeah, I kind of want to put it. I kind of want to put it in Rogue, but like it also isn't exactly Rogue because it is like an established archetype.
I would almost like want to like plead my case for at least being in D tier.
Yeah. I think myself, to appease the Feraligatr enjoyers out there, I want to put it in Rogue and not just slap it in D.
Yeah, you're a much more generous god than I am.
Yeah. It's just like, I know if we put this in here, it's like, why would you put Feraligatr in D tier? Blah, 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 blah in the comments.
I can see that. I can see the hate coming in now.
Yeah. Are we fine with dropping this in Rogue?
Yeah, we can do it. It's fine.
Yeah. Now, Azumarill. I think this is a why is this here, personally. But I could be wrong. Because I do know that Azumarill is, like, a deck that exists. Like, Azumarill, Cornerstone, Noctowl, like... I've seen it work, but...
It exists.
I don't think it's gonna do very well. I mean, I can see the argument.
I'll be honest, not many people are really talking about it anyway.
Yeah. We could put this in either why is this here or D, I think.
I think why is this here is probably best.
We'll put it into why is this here.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Azumarill, you're adorable, but I don't think you're a great deck. Alright. Now, you have Terrapagos experience. I'd like you to talk on Terrapagos first.
Terrapagos. Older Terrapagos experience, but I guess Terrapagos experience as a whole. Very much in like the beginning of like the new format, we had like the big Terrapagos deck.
Yeah,
if that's what we're calling it.
Yeah, I think that's closer.
That was like popular, but it still struggled. It didn't like it basically peaked as soon as the rotation started.
Yeah,
and then you haven't really spoken on it since. I think for Terrapagos, I would say C tier, honestly.
Yeah.
No, maybe I mean, C or maybe even B, honestly.
Yeah.
I can be a little more generous in that because I mean there are other ways you can play Terrapagos anyway.
Yeah.
I don't think
So,
it's anything like too game breaking
yeah.
these days.
I don't think it's like up here by any means, but I'll
No.
speak on my recent Terrapagos experience. I think that at first it started out as Tank Rapagos, and that was the way that it peaked in like early format. But I think like as the format has developed, focusing on Crown Opal has become super solid into like the current metagame. And
Yeah.
I think that's why I personally think that its potential lies in B. Because I think Crown Opal is a really underrated attack.
Given what's in there already, I wouldn't be against B either.
Yeah.
Again, like B or C, but I can definitely sleep fine knowing that it can be in B.
Yeah. I think I'll put it in B myself.
Yeah.
Alright. Hydreigon. I'll make my comment first on this one. I think that this current format, Journey Together, I think it was a B tier deck. I think this upcoming format with Shaman, despite the fact that it does gain another thing it hits for weakness in Mewtwo, it also, even in that Mewtwo deck, they just swing with Spidops. Shaman being in this format just completely destroys this thing's game plan, and although I think it has potential, I don't think that it is anywhere up here. I think it is a C tier deck.
I would even argue for D, honestly.
I think that this thing has potential, and I think that it does have ways of dealing, like, say you play, like, Dusknoir with this, and you Dusknoir the Shaman and then Obsidian. I think it has, like, potential. I could see the argument for D tier, but I think C tier is fair.
I think the thing that actually still like saves the card in a way is the first attack.
Yeah, like
200 mil 3
good.
is
Yeah.
at least decent.
And I think, like, just in the fact that there are so many, like, stage 2s that, like, can survive with just a 200 attack for 2 is super solid. And I think Metagross is, like... I think Metagross is better than this right now, but I do think that cards like this have serious potential.
Is Metagross even on this tier list?
I put Metagross in here.
Oh, there it is.
I had to. Metagross is one of my favorite Pokemon. I had to give this deck recognition. But yeah, I think we can solidly keep that in C.
Yeah.
I don't think it's as bad as Future Box.
Now that they like see how low the bar goes to even get anything in that tier.
Yeah. All right. Now Raging Bolt.
Bolt.
I'm gonna put it in D tier. I'm kidding. It's definitely not a D tier deck. I do think it gets nerfed a little bit this format because of not only the Watchtower turning off the Knocked Owls, but also just Shaman. But I also don't think it cares all that much about Watchtower when it has Fez, Mew, Ogerpon, and plays both Area Zeros and Jamming Towers. I don't think it worries too much about decks playing 1 to 2 of the Watchtower.
You might as well just drop it where you're hovering it now.
Yeah, I do think it's still a solid A tier deck.
Absolutely.
Do you have any other comments on the deck?
I played a Bolt in my weekly tournament somewhat recently. I was I was off Bolt for a bit, but then I played the Christian Fontenot build that he played over in Atlanta. I played that, and I was just like, okay, I can dig with this. Okay, this is doing something.
My local area is like 30 to 40% Bolt at any given tournament, because there are so many Bolt players in this area, but there are also so many really good Bolt players. Like, a lot of Bolt players that know what they're doing.
Exactly.
And all of them are on Baby Bolt. Every single one of them are on Baby Bolt for this current format. But with Shaman, some of them might be getting off of Baby Bolt, because Shaman,
yeah. And I mean, have people think like, Bolt's like an easy deck to play, but I mean, from experience, Bolt does take a bit of know-how on your resources and all that stuff, and energy selection is everything.
Yeah.
When it comes to when to get energies on the board, where to put the energies, and all that stuff.
Yeah, I think Bolt used to be a lot easier pre-rotation before it was like the Owls build, but since it became the Owls build, it has become a much more difficult deck to pilot. Like, there's so much more that you need to think about with the deck now. Like, I personally am not a fan of Bolt myself, but The deck takes more skill than people give it credit for.
I went to NEIC last year. Fun fact.
But how well did you do with Bolt at that point?
I was perfectly even. 3-3-3.
3-3-3.
My ties could have easily have been wins, and one loss I have should have been a win if I didn't go tunnel vision.
That's fair.
Yeah, but that was a whole year ago, so...
Yeah. Since then, you've gotten another day 2, and I have no room to talk because I haven't gotten a day 2 since... Was it 2021 or 2022? It was the NAIC that I played Hisui and Samurott V-Star. I think it was 2022.
That's okay. I'll come back down to Earth soon anyway. It's okay.
Yeah. I'll hopefully get a day 2 sometime. Get another day 2 sometime. Because it's been a minute. Regardless, let's move on to our Caledon, which, unironically, this may be a hot take, but I think this deck is A tier with the Venture Bombs that are coming out in this set, because you just straight up flip a coin, doesn't matter if it's heads or tails, because if you're hitting yourself, you Monkey Dory the damage off, and if you hit your opponent, you just hit your opponent. This also makes Pikachu no longer a bad matchup, it's just free. You just kill the Pikachu. Do you have any thoughts on this archetype? I think this deck is really good into this format.
I think A is definitely fine for sure. I could even argue for B, but I can definitely be fine with it still in A.
Yeah.
The deck's been kind of like in like a weird position, but it's like has like some pretty insane matchups when you really think about it.
Yeah. I think this current format, it's definitely a B tier deck and Journey Together format, but I think with Destined Rivals, I think this deck gets a massive buff from this set.
Yeah.
Like, I think in terms of currently established archetypes, this gets the most impactful buffs to its own game plan.
I'm just gonna say, like, 300 HP on a stage 1 is solid,
Nutty,
I think.
yeah.
People forget that fact. It's got 300 HP for a stage 1.
Yeah. And also, like, I think Rigid Band is mad underrated because it lets you actually, like, live a Pika hit. Alright, yeah, I'm gonna drop that in A.
Yeah.
Alright, Blaziken. We could consider this like a Blaziken box deck, like Blaziken Greninja Zoroark. Or just straight up Blaziken because this Destined Rivals has 70 HP Torchics in it, which is so relevant. And a new Blaziken that does 120 active, 120 bench for 2 fire and a colorless, which I think is an insane attack. I don't think it's like A tier by any means, but I think this is a solid B tier deck. Do you have thoughts on this one?
It's a bit unproven, but it's a bit unproven. It could be a C tier. I think B is still fine though.
Yeah. Have you played any Blaziken decks semi-recently?
I played Mamoswine.
Yeah, Mamoswine is still a Blaziken deck. I think Mamoswine is good. I think that straight Blaziken is going to be a very relevant deck. I think we're gonna see a couple of it, like, get into day 2 for sure.
Yeah, and I mean it's energy acceleration. I mean if Gardy can do it, I mean Blaziken can do like a watered down version of Gardevoir. Why not?
Yeah. All right, now on to Zacian. This one's like Zacian Monkey Dory kind of deck. Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this one first?
The Hopzachian archetype as a whole, it intrigues me in so many ways. I feel like the buildup of damage is solid. Like damage spread is just when it gets going out of hand, then it's just crazy like that. I mean, obviously it'll definitely like struggle bus a little bit more with obviously cards like Shaman coming out and all that stuff. Especially. Where I think in a way it could still be B, teetering towards C.
Yeah, I'm also very much between B and C with this card. I think in this current format, despite the fact that it doesn't see a lot of play, I think it would be like closer to B now. But I think with it, I mean, theoretically, Vengeful Bombs could find a place in it as well.
Yeah.
But I think, personally, I think its potential is C. And this is from someone who's, like, cooked with just, like, the Zacian spread variants, because I played the Valiant variation of this just to spread a ton of damage super early. But, like, I think it's probably in C, but I could see the argument for B.
Yeah, I think, like, either like B or C would be fine. I think I lean more towards C myself,
yeah.
but...
If you're leaning towards C, we'll drop that in C.
Yeah.
I like the
I want to be wrong, honestly, but we'll see.
Yeah, like, if this does really good, I would be very happy to be wrong. I like the stairs. How it's like stairs going up from C up to S. Okay. This one's Terrabox.
Yep.
I think Terrabox is still solid. I think that it definitely struggles a little bit more from the Watchtower, but I don't think that it's impossible for it to deal with Watchtower. And I think that, unironically, the deck might play, like, a Surging Sparks Chien-Pao now. As, like, an Ultra Ball out to getting rid of Watchtower, so it can chain things.
To add on to that, I definitely see, like, a world with, again, cards like Watchtower existing where stocks on the Chien-Pao definitely go up for sure.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, people don't really realize that until they really see, like, the bigger picture of things. But yeah, Chien-Pao stock can definitely go up for sure. We've had cards like Chien-Pao exist before.
Yeah, the Pumpkaboo.
I.e. Pumpkaboo, i.e. Was it the Marshadow?
Yeah, the Marshadow, but that one's a little bit of a different effect, because it was, while it's on bench, you discard it off bench, which is a better version of the Pumpkaboo.
Oh, absolutely. Like,
yeah.
it doesn't
like,
just
clearing
sit
it
there.
off your bench to do it, insane. Yeah, like, you can nest ball for that. I personally am leaning towards B for this one.
Yeah, I think B is fine. Like, it almost, like, teeters into A, but I think B is still fine.
Yeah. Like, I think it has the potential to be A, but I think right now B, I think, is solid. I'll put it like up here. Alright. Now for the next one, we have Zoroark. Which... Oh, not that far up. Not that far
yeah,
up.
Okay.
I think it's up here, guys.
Oh, yes. Hear me out.
Hear me out, guys. I think that it as an engine is fantastic. I think that trade, in terms of, like, drawing cards, I think it gets a buff in this set just due to the Watchtower coming out. But I think that to its own game plan, as it being a standalone deck, Shaman hurts it so much. Because its biggest asset is being able to do 90-90.
Yeah, and again, like, Shaman existing, even though, like, Shaman has pretty much been seen as, like, a worse, bench barrier card and all that stuff, it still does what it needs to do.
Yeah.
And given, the decks that want to run it are going to respect the fact that, hey, bench sniping exists. I want to deal with that.
Yeah.
And not to mention, too, like, when it comes to the Zoroark deck being able to snipe on the bench in general, obviously the concept of discarding all your energies and it's just 90-90, it's not the most damage when you really look at it from, like, a big picture.
I mean, to be fair, Greninja EX... Radiant Greninja, not Greninja EX, ignore me.
Yeah.
Radiant Greninja's attack was 3 energy 90-90, so...
That's true, but it was also, like, it didn't have to... You can just target 2 on the bench, it didn't have to be the active.
Yeah.
That's
Which I
to
think
keep
is,
in mind
like,
as well.
the thing that's, like, holding this back, kind of. But
yeah,
I do
it's
think
like
90-90 is a super impactful amount of damage. Like, 180 for 2 is not bad.
Yeah, like, it's okay at best, I would say. I mean, it can still matter in the long run.
Yeah.
But again, like, given what's coming out...
Yeah, I'm not sure where I would put this right now, though.
I think B's fine.
Yeah. I think that's fair.
Yeah, like the deck can definitely still do some things, like, don't get me wrong on that, but I don't think it's, like, bad enough to throw all the way down in C tier.
Yeah. Plus, like,
it's one of those decks
is fantastic.
Yeah, it's one of those decks where I feel like the most people who are comfortable with it are going to be the ones that play it.
Yeah. And also just, like, it's undisruptible. Like,
yeah.
this deck just, like, does not get disrupted. Like, you
doesn't.
unfair stamp them down, and they're like, okay, cool. Trade, 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 trade.
We have no Path of the Peak abilities at all.
Well, we're
Well,
about
we have Iron and Thorns. That's about it.
Thorns, and then we're about to have Watchtower, but Watchtower doesn't stop this guy.
Oh, that's a black card.
So we've got the Baby Moon. This one's Ancient Box.
Yeah.
I'm gonna personally say I think this is a C tier deck. Like, it is really good into Raging Bolt and Gardevoir. It loses pretty hard to Archaludon and Dragapult.
C is very fair, honestly.
It loses hard to Charizard. Like, it has some winning matchups against some relevant decks, but it also has some losing matchups against some relevant decks.
Oh, for sure. And obviously, like, the way, like Raging... not Raging Bolt. Roaring Moon's just, like, a bit of, like, a wild card in general.
Yeah.
And it's not going to tech against other wild cards in general in the same way how, like, Charizard's a bit of a wild card right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think...
Which, again, as it stands...
Yeah.
I think C
I'm
is definitely
comfortable
fine.
with this being in C. This one I think we might want to, like, talk a little bit more about, because I think Roaring Moon is low-key kind of good. Like, not A-tier good, but I think it might be, like, a B-tier card. Because it can play both the
B tier, yes, B tier is fine. Roaring Moon EX has always had like that weird potential.
Yeah.
Like as soon as like people like forget about it, it seems to always just like pop back into the scene again.
Yeah.
Like randomly.
And just killing something regardless is good. Like, I don't care if I'm taking 200 damage if I'm killing the thing that I wouldn't be able to kill otherwise, and if I can kill you without doing that, then I'll just Calamitous. Like,
and there's not too much that blocks those kinds of effects right now.
And I also think it's just, like, a really solid deck that can play the poison package without it, like, inhibiting their game plan at all. Because the Perilous Jungle doesn't affect Dark type, so you're taking minimal damage. The Ancient Booster Energy Capsule, if it's on the Roaring Moon, means that you're not getting poisoned at all in the first place. And you can sometimes just win games off of going first and them starting just a 70 HP Pokemon. Like, I don't like Poison Donk. I think that Poison Donk shouldn't be in the game because I think everyone should have at least one turn to play the game. But that doesn't stop it from being a thing that can just straight up win you games.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I've been in like older formats where Sableye Donk was a thing, Uxie Donk was a thing. There were equivalents of that.
There's also Valiant Donk. I've KO'd some Pidgeys on turn 1 in my day. when we had 12 switching effects in formats. Yeah, I think that's fine. I think we have our other D tier deck now.
Yeah, the Miraidon is just not at all what it was last format. It lost like just about everything.
Yeah, and this is straight up Miraidon. Like,
yeah,
Joltik Box is also technically Miraidon, but this is Miraidon with generators, and this is Miraidon with the little 30 HP guy who does all the things, and I love him because he's adorable.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to spend too much time talking about that. No. It's in the same tier as the
they're like brothers just hanging out at the bar or something.
Oh, for sure. Now we move on to Hisui and Typhlosion. Not Hisui and Typhlosion. Ethan's Typhlosion.
Ethan's Typhlosion I may have found in Hisui.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this archetype? I want to hear yours first before I give mine.
If I'm gonna be totally honest, it's not an archetype I've explored like that much leading up to the set drop.
Yeah.
I've seen the like for one energy, the attack's pretty good just for what it does.
I think that this deck is actually really good to the point of being like an A tier deck. We haven't had like a really good one prize deck aside from like Ancient Box in a hot minute, or like Frostlass Monkey Dory, which is technically a one prize deck.
Yeah, and I think that's something that the format kind of needs in a way.
I
sort
think
of counteract like what the big old EXs are doing.
I think we need a big boy one prizer that can just beat face right now. We need something that can hit hard. And honestly, I think that this deck is really good, and looking at its, like, matchup spreads, it really only struggles against, like, Dragapult. Like, this thing can just do so well against, like, so many other things. I mean, I guess also Guardy. Like, Guardy and Dragapult are the things it struggles with. But it also, like, I don't know if you saw, like, that one Twitter list where they're playing, like, the 2 Calamitous Snowy Wasteland, 2 Monkey Dory, and a Ho-Oh.
I saw a list. I did see a list. That's about all I saw. I didn't see any video on it, though. That's about it.
Like, literally the only thing I think I would change about that list is adding, like, an energy switch. So you can go attach Dark, Ho-Oh 2 fires down, energy switch up a fire, move the 30, which beats Pika. It allows you to swing for much higher numbers, which is super nice. And, like, ultimately, you're a one-prizer, you're trading favorably into, like, everything.
Right. Like, people, like, always, like, discount how good, like, one-prizers, like, really are when it comes to just
trading.
If they're only taking, like, one prize at a time in a prize exchange, that's pretty huge, actually.
Yeah. And I think
that's always huge.
I think with that Monkey Dory build, I think that Typhlosion has a solid chance into Gardevoir, just because of how easy it is to go Monkey Dory 30, swing 280, knock out Guardy. Dragapult is 10 out of the range of that being a decent matchup. But
yeah, I mean, that's just the downside about the deck in general, is the fact that, like, some of the best decks in the format just exist, and if you're struggling against those, then
yeah,
can't really, like, guarantee how far you're gonna actually get. But
yeah, I would be willing to.
At least.
I would be willing to put this in B, but personally, I think it's A. What are your thoughts?
I think be fine with A. Like, honestly, I trust your opinion more on that one. Again, I haven't explored the archetype that much, so
yeah, that's fair. Ho-Oh Box is one that I'm, like, really liking. I don't know if it's an A tier deck yet, but it's so much fun. Alright, now on to Joltik Box, which I assume we can both agree is A tier.
Yeah, we very much agree on that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been proving itself lately.
Yeah.
And I sit here like, should this really be this good? It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah, it's a deck that capitalizes on decks that want to set up slower, and has things to respond to decks that don't set up slower. Like, if you're being Badooed, you're like, okay, cool, my deck is, like, 80% not items. I'm just gonna...
I'll just grab 4 energy just because I can.
Yeah, I'm just gonna Jolting Charge, Accelerate. You did 10 damage to me, and it didn't inhibit my game plan at all. So just, like, here's a full board of energies, and then I'm gonna take 2 on the Badoo with Amp. Then I'll take 2 more because you're not set up yet, and then I'll Clefairy your Dragapult.
Not to mention, too, the Galvantula gets paired with it as well.
Yeah, the Galvantula is really good. Like, swinging 180 for 2 on a 1-prizer, insane. Like, you cook so many matchups with that. Like, knocking out Zard, knocking out Mew EX, knocking out Grimmsnarl, knocking out Zoroark. Like, there's so many things that this thing does. And it just makes it so much better than these two, to the point where it's not worth running these two.
It's not.
Yeah. But yeah, Joltik solidly.
They all have a happy home now, so that's all that really matters.
I mean, even this past Monday, I went 5-2 in your tournament, playing Precious Trolley Joltik Box, to establish double Terrapagos onto field in the Raging Bolt matchup, and Joltik 2 onto both Terrapagos. Which won me one of the Raging Bolt matchups I hit, and then the other Raging Bolt matchup I hit, I just hard bricked and didn't go anywhere.
Just to add a little small something, the fact that this deck in general, at least all the builds that I've seen, are just running like 4 copies of Boss's Orders, I think that's just insane in general.
Yeah, like, you just want to go 2-2-2, and the 4 boss just lets you do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Alright. Now, Eevee Box. Do you have any thoughts on this? Because I know you said you were...
Yeah, so Eevee Box, like, I've been playing around with it very frequently, and honestly, like, learning all the lines of the deck, it actually does have some very solid matchups in general. Like, even the ones that you think, like, aren't, like, the best, you can still, like, maneuver with in general. Again, like, I don't want to give, like, too much of a bias and just be like, oh yeah, this is definitely the sneakiest one.
Yeah,
like,
because I trust your opinion on this more than mine.
It's very like, deserving of A tier, in my opinion. Uh, Based on like preferences or whatever, it can also go into B tier. A or B is
Yeah.
definitely where I would put it in general.
How do you feel about it with the Watchtower that's coming out? Because it shuts down the 50 HP EV, it shuts down the EVEX, it shuts down Noctowls, it shuts down Blood Moon and Fan Rotom. Like, how do you feel about it with that in mind?
Well, I'd definitely say like adapting's gonna have to be a thing in general. Like you can obviously, up your stadium counts. You can even, again, you can also go
Yeah.
on the Qian Pao path as well. Like you could probably deal with it. It's not like impossible.
Yeah.
Like
Are you-
I've had the kinds of difficult plateaus before where it feels like, oh, this should be countering me, but I'm doing okay against it. Hey,
Yeah,
why
that's
not?
completely fair.
I can deal with it.
Yeah. So honestly, if you're vibing with A tier right now, because you're way more experienced with this deck than I am, I'm down to drop it in A tier if you want.
Yeah, I think that's fine. Yeah.
Cool. All right. Now Blissey. This deck is like, this deck is weird.
It's very weird.
It can sometimes just pop up in top 8 and then sometimes like does absolutely nothing. Like part of me wants to drop it in D tier, but I know it's good enough to not be. So I'm thinking C tier personally.
Decent enough for C tier.
Yeah, I think it's decent enough for C tier because results have showed that it is not a D tier like deck, but I really don't think it's in B tier.
Yeah, like once you get the setup going with the deck, I've had those games where you get the setup going and you're kind of just
You're
zooming,
just immortal, yeah.
consistently doing like Monkey Dory stuff in general. Like it's just,
Yeah.
it
It's super strong into some of these decks,
but
like,
again, it is a deck that can crumble though.
yeah. I think C is fair for this one.
C is very fair for it.
Yeah. Alright, Cynthia's Garchomp. I'm gonna personally say I think it's C for Cynthia.
C for Cynthia.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
Not too much. Like I think it's fine. It's nothing fancy.
Yeah. Like it's a.
I think fine is just the best way to put it.
Yeah. It's a tank deck that can hit really hard.
Yeah, that's about it.
It
Can
has
hit hard,
ways
yeah,
to
like
tank more. It has things that could make it theoretically B tier, but
Yeah.
like I think that there are other decks that currently not necessarily do its tanking job better, but do its tanking job more efficiently, which I think would be like Archaludon up here.
And more or less decks that are just better as a whole, I would say.
I think that this could theoretically go up in the future, but I think right now it's not going to have an outstanding performance at NAIC.
No, it doesn't blow me away as it stands.
Yeah. I think C tier is fine, C for Cynthia's Garchomp.
Yes.
But I think like if you're leaning towards Cynthia's Garchomp for NAIC, I think you should just play Archaludon. Like, that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
Now, my lad, I might be biased, but I think this is B tier. I think that just accelerating 2 energy out of deck is super nice. The fact that it, for a single Carbink, takes 6 energy for your opponent's Raging Bolt to kill it. Swinging 200 plus like healing 30 off of it with Monkey Dory puts it out of range of Phantom Dive killing it. Like, I've been playing this on the ladder lately, and I've been pleasantly surprised when I thought it would be mid. I don't think it's an A tier deck, but personally, I think it's a B tier deck. Do you have thoughts on this? Have you played any of the Metagross lately on stream?
The reason why I haven't played it yet is because it's been bugged in the game.
Right, because you can just accelerate to things that aren't metal or psychic, even though it's supposed to.
Pretty much, yeah. That's, again, that's the reason why I haven't like played around with it at all. I wanted it to work, but it just doesn't work currently.
It's, I like it a lot. Do you have any preference on like tier?
Honestly, I think I'm gonna leave this one in your court.
Yeah, I'm gonna drop it in B then, because I love Metagross. Metagross is fantastic. He is my lad. Literally, Metagross GX was the first deck I ever played getting into this game.
Oh, really?
Guardians Rising, Metagross was the first ever deck I built. That's also why I really love Metagross. Now, Yanmega. I wish I could be biased and be like, this is an A tier deck, but I've been testing it so much that I know it's a C tier deck. I really wanted to bring this to NAIC, and I've just been playing it, and every game feels like I'm like one turn away from winning.
Yeah. It's a really neat card. I mean, don't get me wrong.
Like, I think it has potential, and I'm going to continue to cook with it because I think I might just have not found the right variation for it yet. Because there's so many different things you can do with this, but I don't think it's going to be my NAIC pick. If it was B tier, I think I'd be committing to this deck. But I think since it's C tier, I'm probably not going to be bringing this to NAIC.
Yeah, I think the World of Potential is definitely where it belongs for sure.
Yeah. I think it's in, like, the same kind of, like, it has the potential to do super well, but, like, is not gonna be there for NAIC.
Yeah.
Alright, Mewtwo. Do you have any thoughts on this one?
I'm gonna just put this out there as far as, like, the kind of deck that Mewtwo is, or, like, the Rockets build in generals.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely one of those, like, boomer bust kind of decks where it feels really cool, to be honest with you, but it does have, like, the boomer bust potential. I wouldn't put it anywhere higher than B, though, for myself.
Yeah. For me, I think that building this as straight Mewtwo is not the way to build this deck. I think that the deck capitalizes way more on being a one-prize deck until the end of the game. Yeah. I think that building Team Rockets... Like, let's just consider this Team Rocket decks as a whole. The Team Rocket decks, I feel like, do way better spreading damage with a heavy Crobat line, swinging with Spadops for upwards of 180 per hit. The Sneasel as, like, a one-of in the deck to be able to finish off 2 shots is super nice. And then being able to swing with Crobat is also really good, because you can bounce it back to hand and continue to get more spread. I think that this build is going to be way better with Crobat as the focus and playing a one-of Mewtwo as a finisher than it is as being a dedicated Mewtwo deck.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I think, like, you know, Crobat as a card gets slept on a bit too much. I think, like, more than it should be.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you think about, like, you know, the stars of the set, everyone's just like, oh my god, Mewtwo, oh my god, Mewtwo. No one's just like, oh, Crobat.
I think the Crobat is, like, way more impactful than this is. Yeah. Plus, like, if you play it as a one-prize deck, you have so many more opportunities to just have your opponent draw nothing off of you doing the shuffle your hand into your deck, you draw 3, I draw 5. Like, the Rockets supporters are amazing, and leaning into being able to use them more times in a game, I think is, like, the way to play the deck. Personally, I think if the deck is built right and isn't built around Mewtwo, I think it could be A, but I think otherwise, like, Rocket decks as a whole, I think are sitting solidly in B tier.
Yeah, I definitely would not go any higher than B, just given, like, what we know so far.
Yeah. I think this deck has a ton of potential, though. Like, Rocket deck as a whole, not specifically this. And in the same vein, I've been playing around with Ho-Oh's, Ethan's Ho-Oh a lot, and I don't think it's quite A tier yet. I think that next set, the, like, the black and white set, I think it gets so many assets that makes it so good that I think then it would be A tier, but I think for this format it's probably also solidly sitting in B tier. Do you have any thoughts on this archetype? I think it's really good.
Yeah, B is definitely, like, fine for it. Like, again, like, with the new archetypes coming out, like, whenever, like, the first big tournament comes around for a set, that's usually the proving grounds as far as, like, what can these archetypes do.
Yeah.
Or more or less not do. Can they, like, stand toe-to-toe with what's already been dominating in a way, which, I mean, oddly enough, I believe this should be, like, the only major tournament that's going to have this format, because
everything
black and white comes out in July, and then when Worlds comes around,
it's going to be the black and white set by then. Yeah,
this is going to be the only major tournament that we're going to have of this. So
yeah, which is a shame, because I think that this deck has a huge potential for just anti-metaing things, but the problem is we're going into a blind, fresh format. So having this and not knowing how to build it, because, like, for the people who are watching, this is Ho-Oh Armor Rouge. So you're moving up fire energies that you accelerate with Armor Rouge onto a variety of different attackers. And toolbox style decks like this are always going to be better when you know the metagame you're building into. If you're building into it blind, you're doing a lot of guesswork in the matchups you're gonna hit.
Yeah, again, like nobody really wants to be the guinea pig on that one of thinking like, oh, I think I can do this, and then you find out like, oh, this isn't working out after all.
I low-key might though. I might bring this to NAIC. Like this one, it's so much fun. It's just like, I don't know what I'm gonna hit yet. Like there's so many good potential decks. Like you can see all of this up here is potential stuff you could hit to be potentially worried about. Like literally all of this up here are things to consider. So
yeah,
figuring out like what to do in that regard for how to build this deck is like super important for whether or not you do well or don't do well at a tournament like NAIC.
Exactly.
But that is all the decks. Honestly, I really like this list. Like, there's definitely a couple of them that I think some people might disagree with. Some people might disagree with this being an A or this being an A. I think these four are very solidly an A.
Yeah.
Some of them in B they might think are C. Some of them in C they might think are D. Some people might be like, how dare you put Future Box in D?
Oh my god. There's like a single Future Box lover out there. Please speak up now. Forever hold your peace. That's not me.
If you're a Future Box lover, please comment below. Tell us how wrong we are in the comments.
I'm waiting for it.
Yeah, I'm waiting for it too. Either way, I do like this list. I think it's fair. Let me tab down a little bit so people can see the why is this here. And
why is that there?
I'll give this thing a little screenshot real quick before we end off. Whoop. Alright, there we go. So, hope you all enjoyed this video. We had a lot of fun making it. It's super fun to be able to talk about a fresh new format. I have been OnGaard, and
I've been Sunny.
Hope you all have a great rest of your night. Leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and as always, strike first.
Strike first.